Hello, 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 and welcome back to IVF in Your Pocket, your waiting room companion. If you are about to start IVF, this is the episode for you. I'm going to walk you through some important tips and just some things to know to help you prepare and have a calmer, less overwhelmed IVF experience. And if you're in the middle of the journey, this is also a great episode to refresh and just remind yourself about some things that might help you stay calm and just collected through the IVF journey. So you might have just done a lot of blood work. You might have done a couple consultations at some IVF clinics. Perhaps you're coming in pretty frustrated having done a lot of IUIs or been trying to conceive for a while or just been coordinating to get through the IVF process as a way to build your family. And before you get started, it's really a good thing to keep in mind that so much of the IVF process is about waiting. So even you're starting out and you're probably thinking, okay, I've done all this work, let's go, I'm ready. Even right at the beginning, you do have to wait. You often have to wait, perhaps for a clinic. You might definitely have to wait if you're listening from UK. Hello, my UK listeners. And you likely have to wait until your cycle starts. And so that is really frustrating just from the get-go. And then, of course, there's so much waiting along the way. There's waiting for results. There's waiting for your beta results. There's waiting for your PGT testing results if you're going to go that route and get your embryos tested, if that's an option for you in the country you live in. And then there's waiting often between retrieval cycle and the transfer cycle. The other thing to know about IVF, not to sound like a downer, but to be realistic, is there's often a lot of loss. And so it's important we go into IVF thinking a lot about the physical part of IVF, but there's not as much attention paid to preparing emotionally for the journey. And that is something that comes up for a lot of couples, a lot of people. I see this a lot for the people who come to get reproductive therapy with me, that there's been quite a bit of loss and disappointment and a real up and down process that they weren't expecting and weren't prepared for. It's hard to prepare for loss. And just know that often there is a point where something unexpected happens. Perhaps you retrieved less than you were hoping. Maybe you got not embryos you could use back after the genetic testing. Maybe the physical part of the journey was harder than you anticipated. Oftentimes there is something unexpected. So it's good to know that that might happen along the way and you're prepared. You now know that that could happen and that's part of the journey. While there is a lot of waiting and there's often a lot of ups and downs, and there certainly is probably overwhelm and loss, there is, of course, hope. There's so much hope. And you've taken a lot. It's taken a lot to get here, whether you've had to wait a couple months, if you're waiting for a doctor, you're in a country where you have to wait a long time for IVF, or you're here in the US and you're on a clinic's timeline or your cycle's timeline, or there's been a lot of coordinating up until this point, you have hope. And this is something to acknowledge and to remember why you're doing what you're doing, why you're putting all this effort, that you do have hope that this is going to be a journey that gives you the outcome you so hope for and desire. It is good, though, to tamper expectations and sometimes know that you might be on the journey longer than you had anticipated. It often takes people multiple rounds of both retrieval and sometimes transfer to get to the outcome they're hoping for. So I would say the key to being prepared for the IVF journey, and this one needs a triple asterisk next to it, is to really break the journey up into steps, because the journey is so overwhelming And there's so much information out there. It's really easy to get sucked in, particularly on some of the social media groups. You can really start to think about early pregnancy when you haven't even done a retrieval. And so one thing to do is to break this journey up into steps. So really thinking right now you're just getting prepared for the retrieval, and just to be in that mode and that phase while you're in it, and not get too bogged down with what's coming next. So not thinking yet about what kind of transfer you're going to do, or is the transfer going to work. So trying to stay away from future thoughts in a different phase. So you have the retrieval phase first, and then you have the waiting for the results of the retrieval. And then you have the genetic testing phase if you're going to do that. And then you start to get geared up for transfer. And sometimes there's some tests in between retrieval and transfer that you want to do. And then there's the transfer itself. And then there's the waiting post-transfer. And then there's the early pregnancy. So those are a lot of steps, and I might have missed one in there. But it's good to stay focused on the phase that you're in. And alongside that, it's really important to find a couple reliable, consistent, clear sources of information so that you can get your information from a couple different places and not get bogged down or overwhelmed by all the information that's out there about IVF. So perhaps one of those resources is this podcast. It could also be something like a book, like the IVF Blueprint from my friends Fertility Docs Uncensored. They put out a great book about IVF. And they're three wonderful REs. It could be something like Dr. Amy's wonderful podcast. Wherever it is, you just want to make sure that you're getting reliable, consistent support that you can go to and know that you're getting the facts right, and that you're getting the support you need without getting so sucked into all the information out there. Another important thing is to research some of the IVF protocols and have a sense of whether you're going to do something like PG testing before you start your retrieval. Of course, your care team and your RE will have some opinion about that. You want to make these decisions alongside them, but it's also really important to get informed about why your RE is choosing the protocol they're choosing. Even if you are in the UK and you don't get an option to choose your provider, you can still advocate and ask your doctor, like, hey, why are you choosing this for me? For example, I'm just going to give an example. Hey, why are we choosing to do a start cycle retrieval when I've heard that mid-luteal cycles, that means stimulating after ovulation, can be really effective? This is just an example. It could be something like, hey, why are we not just moving straight to donor egg or donor sperm? Because I am really comfortable with that option, and I don't feel like I want to go through a lot of retrievals to use my own eggs. I mean, it just really depends on your case. Either way, regardless of your case, you want to understand with your RE why they're doing what they're doing, and not have the first cycle just be, let's see how things go, and I'm going to just use what I use with everyone. You really want it tailored to you as much as possible. And so you want to get the information, like, why are we using these medications? Why this amount? Why are we not doing less medication? Why are we not doing more medication depending on your specific situation? It's really easy to just follow along, and you want to be informed and go in and have a conversation with your RE about why they're choosing the method they're choosing. So that's going to keep you really focused on the retrieval phase without thinking too much in the future, just staying really focused on the here and now. And finally, what I see a lot is people coming into my office and saying that they were really not expecting the impact of the emotional process. I think when we go into IVF, it's easy to think, oh, IVF is going to be really tough physically. And that's definitely true. There's going to be lots of shots. There's going to be hormones. That sounds really hard. It's going to be up and down. There's so much different things in my body that I'm not used to. There's a surgery. But what's often true for people is that the physical impact is short. It's during your stimulation and it's not pleasant, but that the emotional impact can be longer. It really lasts throughout the journey, and it's good to know that that's very real, and to prepare for some kind of emotional experience, making support crucial even before you begin. So really thinking about, what's my support going to be? What's my emotional toolkit going to be? Who are going to be the people I rely on when things don't go as planned? And if they do go as planned, great. I still have some people supporting me that can celebrate how easy IVF is. So getting linked to therapists, getting linked to couples work, getting linked to things like Resolve here in the US, which is a great resource that offers peer-run groups, finding your people. So there's so much to say here. And if you found something super helpful in your preparation, please reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you in the US. I want to hear from you in the UK. I want to hear from you in Japan. What helps? What doesn't? You can find me at alexandragiristock.com or my email, alexandrapsychotherapy@gmail.com. Remember, until next time, you are not alone.